Hello and welcome to the TwinSync Studio launch tutorial. I'm going to be covering a lot. I'm going to be covering more than the previous tutorials. Specifically, we're going to be importing a Synchro project that I have into Unreal Engine with animations, and then we're going to look at the animation in Unreal. We're going to drive it using a level sequence. We're going to build a tiny UI for it so that you can interactively control it during game, like the game runtime in Unreal. And then also we're going to render it out to a movie render queue. So hopefully we can tackle all of it. Okay, so to get started, here is our website where you can find more information at graphical.tech/TwinSync Studio. So if you scroll down a little bit, there's pricing available to look at. There's like an FAQ for pricing. There's you can just contact us for a bunch of stuff. And there's also links to the tutorials, a user manual, and link to request a free day trial. The free day trial is going to be limited to about 14 days. Maybe you could get one extension on that after the actual demo ends in the beginning of December, so right as November ends. But right now, if you get it, there's still about like 40 days until that's no longer an option. But yeah, so check out the website. With that said, let's go into the application and load my project. I think I may have accidentally already downloaded the thing that I wanted to show you how to download, but whatever. At the top left, we have licensing stuff. We can install our Unreal plugin, which is required if you want animations. It's also really required if you want the materials to work more or less. So if you're just looking for mesh exports, then go ahead and not install it if you don't want to. But I highly recommend installing it into your project before you import your Datasmith stuff. So I'll show you how to get a Datasmith. If you're not aware, Datasmith is just the format that we use to move things into Unreal. So we'll cover that. We'll make our Datasmith export from this Synchro project. Okay, with that said, I'm going to hit this download button. If you're using the Pro version, not the standalone version, you will have this download button. You can get the download button in standalone, but you have to bring your own iTunes license. Okay, so you can look at the pricing FAQ for more answers on questions surrounding the standalone edition. Okay, so I'm heading into this. Looks like I already downloaded this. It just opened it straight up. It would first, when you click it, like it would open a file browser and tell you to put the file somewhere basically. Okay, so we've got it open. Here's my project that you may have seen a million times before. I do not unfortunately have permission to use like a lot of Synchro. Like nobody has given me a Synchro project to show off basically, except for this training data that comes with Synchro. So this is what I use for my demos. But sometimes I get permission for like some of the videos that you may have seen, just not for the actual content to deal with myself. So I'm going to stick to this one. And besides, I'm doing this on a laptop with a 2070 GPU, NVIDIA 2070, so it's pretty weak. So I'm going to stick to the smaller side for now. Okay, so let's get acquainted. I guess I didn't even cover, let me go back to the main menu. I didn't really cover, there's like some links on the side here and there's some recent things. I just opened this recent one. We can open that again. But you know, if you want to like go to my user manual quickly, it's available over there. Okay. Back to this guy. Let's sort of do a quick tour here. So over here is the viewport. You can look at your Synchro schedule, the animation for it. This is what's going to come into Unreal. There's some extra tools if you need for navigating things. There's also a tree view here. We're going to do something interesting, hopefully, that I forgot to mention earlier, which is we're going to do some material overrides. Let me go all the way here until I see grass. Okay, there's the grass. So yeah, you can select things and look at them and see how this is called the floor for some reason. But you can see properties basically of different elements. The one I'm using is an older version, so it doesn't quite have very rich data, but at least you have some user labels you can match on, like this is a tree and this is a shrub. And if you look at this one, yes, it's apparently floor. But if you go up in the hierarchy, you find out that it's under this grass it's in this grass hierarchy sort of. So we're going to use that in a little bit. But yeah, so this is what we got here. We can look around, you can play, and yeah, you can watch the animation basically through that. Okay, we got the properties, and there's the tree view where you can look at things and make them. Let's try to we can remove the excavator. Oh, the excavator is invisible right now. What else can I move? There we go. So we can get rid of the structure like visibility wise, and that's actually going to be useful when we use this quick export button in a second. And then the last thing I just want to look at quickly before we do this is probably the area that's going to be receiving the most updates, at least in the near future, is this visual scripting area, because it lets us customize the way our exports come out. And we're going to use it to override some of the materials that are going to come out of the export right now. So this is sort of a visual scripting area, and there's a table area where we can edit tables. And this lets you just sort of choose just customize, like add custom logic to what you do every time the exporter encounters an object or an instance, because it's like, it could be like the same mesh twice. Like this rod and this rod might be, or probably not those two, but this rod and this rod might be the exact same mesh. So they're just two instances of the same mesh, but we process each of them using this process instance function, which you can open by clicking on the open function button there. There's also a ignore instance function if you want to do something like, hey, if it's visible in the viewport, ignore it. We probably want the opposite of that. So I'm going to click and drag out here, and then under Boolean hit not, and then I'm going to connect that instead. So now it's going to say if it's visible in the viewport, it's going to be, whoops, I forgot, you need to actually take the element ID and check if that element is visible in the viewport. Yeah. So now if the element is not visible, it's going to be ignored. So that means we can like do what I did here. Whoops, remove the structure, and then it would not export that, which is pretty cool. There's of course a slightly easier way to do this in the quick export. This is more for like advanced stuff, which is this menu. So if I, like, for example, selected, say this excavator or crane or whatever, not a construction expert, but just select these two things. And if you hit the quick export, you can filter by either current selection, what we just selected, or you could also filter by viewport visibility, just like we did down here. So this just sort of does the same thing as this. And then you can change a few other small things, like if you want to decimate the geometry, which you very rarely want to do. If you're dealing with a curved geometry, sometimes you want to change the degrees that it gets like decimated, not decimated, but like cut at or whatever. Otherwise, you may have too much geometry. Depends on what you're dealing with. And then you can also change the offset of your model if you want, and you can change the name it exports too. The other thing to know is this thing called clustering. So if you go back to process instance here, every time you process a mesh, you get to decide what cluster it becomes a part of. So that sort of just merges the geometry into one actor, basically, which is called a cluster. So in this case, the default is no cluster, meaning there's no merging. So every item here, even if there's, like, I'll be honest, in iTwin, this thing gets stored as multiple geometries. Like there's multiple independent instances in this one element. So it's actually going to come through as multiple things if you do no clustering. But if you instead grab the element and put it there, then it's going to merge all the pieces that this is a part of. It's going to merge them into one actor in Unreal and one mesh asset. You can do the exact same thing here because it's common with by element. Now, I don't recommend that one because the better one, which I don't even cover here, but you can also do here with custom logic, you can change it how you want, is single use meshes within elements. So that's what's going to be clustered. That's what's going to be merged together, is anything that was only, basically it's a mesh that has not reused. So if you take this, if it turns out, in this case it's not one element, but if this were one element comprised of many different meshes that were the same, it would be very non-performing in Unreal to just create one giant mesh out of them. It would be better to just have multiple instances. So in that case, if this were one element, like let's pretend for a second when I select this, oops, is that, yeah, okay. So imagine if this were one element. Really, I've selected an assembly, so I've selected multiple things. But if you imagine this were one element and there were just a bunch of like instances inside of it, then they would be merged together if you use the not recommended strategy here, which is the by element. If you do single use meshes, then it's only going to use the ones like, say, this floor here, which get used once. So really what this long explanation boils down to is don't use the ones that are not recommended. And the ones I really recommend is single use meshes with animation batches or single use meshes within elements. The difference being that if you have an element like this and it's, or let's say this guy. So if you notice, this guy pops in at the same time with all these guys. So they have the same animation. So it would merge all of them together. And that would actually be the most efficient. Now, like I said, the instances, so if this is the same mesh as this one, then they're not going to merge. And maybe you don't care about all this optimization talk that I'm talking about. So maybe I'll just say, remember, single use meshes within animation batches. Everything that can be instanced will then be instanced, and that will give you maximum performance. But everything that should be combined will be combined, and that will also give you maximum performance. Because different things that get combined means you get less draw calls on your GPU, which means Unreal goes burr. So Unreal gets happy and doesn't have to do as much stuff. The only problem where you may want to use single use meshes within elements, or even none, is if just like there's so much geometry. Usually this one's fine. Like I don't actually know how many, I'm not sure if I've seen many cases where you can't actually do this, but sometimes if there's so much geometry in the scene, you will eclipse Unreal's 2 GB mesh asset geometry size limit, in which case you might want to not merge entire animations, which may be huge, but instead merge individual elements. So yeah, just stick to this one for now. Hope you skimmed through that. Okay, so we now learned a little bit about the options for quick export. We learned about this export. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep doing the no cluster ID, because this scene's not that big and it's going to be fine. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do some material overriding, because unlike the simple export, you can't really be like, oh, let me give you some custom logic for materials. Here you can actually implement custom logic. So what I want is each instance that we process, you can use all of these parameters to decide what material to use. If you leave the material empty, it's just going to generate a default material for you with the color that it has. But we're going to give it a custom one, and we're actually going to use a table to do it. So I'm going to create a new table by clicking the plus there, typing in materials here, and then that's going to give us this little spreadsheet here. And what I wanted to do is I want to take that grass that I saw earlier, and I wanted to use it to our advantage. So if I looked at this guy, remember under properties it said floor, but if I went up, it was grass. If I look at this one, this is also floor, and if I go up, it's also grass. So what we've sort of learned here is that the parent element, if you go one level up in the hierarchy, is going to be shared, or it's going to have the word grass in it. So we're going to use that logic to do some material mapping to grass. So I'm going to just type in grass here, and here I'm going to match it to an Unreal material. So I'm going to hit select UV material, and I'm going to go into my project. So here's my test project. I'm going to go into the content. Now I have already added the starter content. I will show you how to do that later. So in my case, I added the starter content. You probably should create your project with starter content if you wanted. I'm going to go into materials, and I'm going to just select grass here. Yeah, mground grass. So now it's going to create this path for me, this Unreal Engine asset path, and that's what it's going to use to match grass. Great, that's exactly what I wanted. So now we're going to use that table here. Okay, so like I said, what we noticed is that for this object, its parent was grass. So we're going to get this, when I say object, things are called elements in iTwin. So I'm going to grab this element, I'm going to pull it out, and in the iTwin section, I'm going to grab the parent element, which is the one that has grass as the name. And the name is called user label. So I'm going to pull out here, and I'm going to grab the user label. Now you might notice there really aren't actually yet that many things in the iTwin section. I am going to be adding more. This is the most useful one so far, but if you really need it, there's also a JavaScript eval node, which is going to let you evaluate JavaScript inside of iTwin. So you could do that if you wanted to, and then you can access everything. So if you just are like, I want to access property mic, just contact us, and we can give you some we can show you how to do in JavaScript. We can give you a screenshot of what it would look like, and we can also work on adding, like exposing that particular thing. We just want to see what people are looking for. So far, user label has been the most popular by far. There's also code value, which is important too. That'll show up here under code. Okay, so we've got our user label. So what we want to do now is we want to interact with this table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, and I'm going to grab this map by table node. And what's going to do is it's basically going to, as it describes very lengthily here, takes a table that has 2 columns. Let me actually hide this table so we have more space. It takes a table with 2 columns, and it searches the first row for matches and returns the first column. And then it returns the second column. So if I go back to my my materials table, and I add like a dirt here, then I can like have another material here, and it will, if it sees dirt, it will give that material. In my case, I'm going to leave it empty because I haven't looked if there's anything called dirt here. So I'm not going to play with that. Okay, but we're going to look for the key. So in this case, the user label is the key. We only want to match a part because this is called like grass 6. We don't want to have to we want to match anything that has the word grass in it, not just something that has grass 6. And then we also want to use the materials table. In the future, I'll probably add a drop down here for which table you want from the tables you have, but right now you just have to match the name you gave it exactly. It is lowercase m, great. And if it's not found, I'm just going to return the empty string, because the empty string is just like here, going to just generate a default material for us. Okay, with that done, I think that's enough. I'm just going to pass that here. So that's basically just going to say, it's going to look through the table for every user label or every parent user label that it sees, and it's going to say, okay, well, if this is if it has the word grass in it, because it's only matching a part, then it's going to give us this material path as an override. Otherwise, it's just going to give us the if not found, which is empty, which means it's just going to give us the default material. Okay, great. So, you know, in the future, and especially if there's some demand, then maybe I'll add the ability to just like create materials here, not just match them, because then you could do like, oh, let me create a custom material with like the color that they have here, but let me make it less bright or something. So that might be coming in the future. We'll see what people want, and then I'll incrementally add updates. Okay, so with that done, now we can export using this. Instead of the quick export, we can just hit by script. So I'm gonna hit by script, and I'm going to in here, I'll just call it, yeah, whatever, export. Okay, so while that's exporting, I'm gonna install the plugin. So you can do it in multiple ways. You can do it down here, you can do it here. I'm gonna do it here. I don't remember. I think it's fine here. Or sorry, it's definitely fine there. I think the UI is slightly less fun for me anyway. So I'm gonna do it in this project. I'm actually gonna, I guess, show you what it looks like to create a new project first, because there are some potential issues. But let's talk about creating a project, and then I'm just gonna use this one anyway. Could create a new one, but whatever. Okay, so if I create a, if I open a project, sorry, create a new project in Unreal, you're gonna basically want to use the architecture. Whoops, why do I need new distributables? Interesting. If you want to use the plugin, our plugin, it requires, or really, yeah, just actually even without the plugin, you need to import Datasmith content. And for that, you actually need the Datasmith plugin to be activated. I'll show you how to activate it, but the easiest thing to do is to just use the architecture template in Unreal itself. So that way you can just have it already there for you. Okay, this thing already finished, by the way, while I was talking. Let's let this load. Okay, great. So you want to go to the architecture template, and then you want to just probably grab the blank one or anything. Yeah, I would just use the blank one, make it. And the important thing is that's going to give us it's going to install the Datasmith plugin, or it's going to activate it, which I'll show you how to do if you have not done that already. I guess the other thing I wanted to point out is that if you are using the TwinSync Studio plugin, it's going to, for the most part, be using the latest version. It's going to come with the latest version of Unreal Engine binaries. So that means that if you are not using Unreal Engine 5.6.1 right now, like when 5.7 comes out, it'll be updated. But if you're not using 5.6.1, then you will have to rebuild the binaries on your own, which is easy to do. You just have to, you can go into our manual and read the prerequisite section. I think I have it open here probably, or let me grab it here. So system requirements here. So yeah, you have to install either the build tools for Visual Studio or full Visual Studio Community Edition, and then install these two workloads. And that is what will let Unreal rebuild things. You need this anyway for most Unreal development, especially if you're packaging your project at the end of developing it. So I just recommend getting it anyway. And it also means you'll be able to use not just the latest Unreal, or you'll be able to use, you know, an older version of TwinSync Studio if a new version of Unreal comes out. So highly recommend setting that up. Okay, with that out of the way, I'm on 5.6, so we're good. I've got my project already here. I'm going to install the plugin. I'm going to choose, hey, here's my project. You just have to find it because we're looking for a U project. And then you hit open, and it's going to, whoa, tell me that it can't overwrite a directory that already exists. Well, that makes sense. So I'm going to go in here and delete this, and I'm going to fix that bug for the actual release where it will just overwrite the thing for you. But in my case, I just deleted it. So let me go back to TwinSync Studio and say, hey, let's install that again. Okay, and now it was installed successfully. Great. Okay, so we've got The plugin, we've got the export I created, so now I can finally open my project. If you have already opened the project, you will want to once you install it, you will need to reopen Unreal because it will not load the plugin until you restart the editor. Okay, now I'm gonna open it. Okay, in my case, I have to rebuild them, so I'm gonna hit yes. This will be nice and educational for us to watch that happen. It's going to rebuild it. This shouldn't happen on 5.6.1 generally. I think in my case, I just am using a development edition or whatever. So, okay, hopefully this will finish up in a second, and then we can move forward with checking this out. Okay, so the editor just loaded. Here we've got my empty scene. I actually deleted my, in this project I deleted my player start because I find it annoying when it always starts at that place. I want it to start where I'm looking at least when I'm developing. Obviously do what you need to do. So let's get this Datasmith content in, talk a little bit about the plugins. So here we have the Datasmith import button. You are not going to have that unless you have those Datasmith plugins that I talked about. So if you go into the plugins from the edit menu and look up for Datasmith, you'll see I have them activated. That's because I use the architecture template to start this. And you know, while I'm here, might as well check out that I have the TwinSync Studio plugin. So let's import the stuff that I did. Here, I'm gonna go here. Oops. I actually imported a second time. It turned out the first time I had installed an older version of TwinSync Studio by accident. That's what happens when you're changing it so frequently. Okay, so this is real-time importing. Should finish up pretty soon. This is a small scene. My computer's pretty old, but whatever. Okay, there we go. So what you're seeing here is the animation at the beginning, except this grass material that we used has not been prepared for the shader material-based animation that TwinSync Studio uses, so it's visible too. So if you look at TwinSync Studio, we can see, sorry, it starts without the grass, and then it's going to have the grass at the end, and it starts all brown here, so that's what we have here. But there's this grass material. So let's cover how to change the material. So I'm going to open the material. You go over there. I should really change my editor setting to that. Get into the material. This material I brought into the starter content, which you can just see if you hit add. Sorry. Is it add? I feel like it's add. Yeah, it is. I don't know why I did that. If you go to add a feature content pack and then go to content, that's where you can get the starter content. That's what I used to get this into my project before I imported the TwinSync Studio plugin. But I got my ground grass, so all you got to do really is you got to basically just add this material function, which is provided by the plugin called schedule animation. So you just got to replace all of the color input with, or basically replace all these inputs with your own, or sorry, with this thing. Bring them through this animation, so that way it can apply the animation on top of them. There is no opacity, but there needs to be, so we'll add that in a second. And then normal. Technically the normal one you don't actually have to do because I don't change the normals right now at all. For some reason I included them in here. I think it was because of, not important. Okay, and then we don't care about the custom opacity. It's just gonna be 1.0, aka fully opaque, not transparent. The last thing we do have to do is we have to say, yes, we are gonna use those custom inputs. So we add a static bool and say true. So we are using the custom inputs that we just gave it instead of the defaults. And then the last thing we have to do is you have to actually activate this opacity mask, because as it is right now, it will always be opaque. We want it to be masked, meaning that the animation can decide to not show this object. So that way, unlike here where it is showing at all times, we hit apply and it should disappear. There we go. Okay, but this one is visible. And yeah, if you haven't noticed, it is the custom material. So thank you, material mapping, for doing that for us. Now, every time, even if the project changes, you can just save. I guess I didn't show that. You can just save your Visual Script automation and reload it, and that will let you, just like say for this project, I have this Visual Script that knows the element relationships and how to replace them, so you can never redo material mapping, just automate all that. Great. Okay, and obviously you do it for more than just grass, but I'm trying to be quick here. Okay, we've got our beginning animation here. So now let's actually scroll through the animation. This is a completely new feature to the Pro version. We want to select the schedule manager because that is the actor that does basically everything. It's where the Blueprint API exists. Let's take a look at this new feature I was talking about. The new feature is that instead of the previous way of doing things, which I'm not even going to talk about because it was all slightly more complicated than necessary and you don't need to know it anymore. is there's just this animation progress that goes from 0 to 1, which is going to, in the editor, let us watch the actual animation. Great. Okay. And you can like pause it or whatever, work on it, do what you want. And that's it. I'm going to turn off autoplay because I'm going to use a level sequence to drive this property because this is an animatable property. And that's just going to let us, more easily use the movie render queue and stuff. The other thing to note is that the schedule manager, so let me actually, so I'm going to select it here and then open the level blueprint and show you about how to use the blueprint API a tiny bit. Okay, so what I want to do on tick, looks like I already had it in this project. What I want to do on tick is I just want to print the current date. So let's grab a reference to the thing that I've selected in the properties panel, schedule manager. And then I'm going to go to it and I'm going to do, it's called get scene data. So you could, for example, from here, let me break this. You can get the last frame, doesn't matter, but you can get the start date time and the end date time. The origin offset as well. Most of these aren't necessary except for probably those. Those are useful for if you're like drawing a timeline and you want to show the start and the end. You have them stored here. But what we really want to do is we want to just get the current time. So yep, get scheduled date time from active. Whoa, that's not what I want. Not active sequence. Current. Whoops. Schedule. Did I like accidentally delete this one? Oh, what? Oh, did I accidentally delete this function or something? Okay, well, I will probably just restart the video later with that added. Okay, get scheduled date time. I can't believe I did that. Wow. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm dumb. Sorry. I'm gonna have to skip through that. So I'm gonna pull out the schedule manager now that I've realized what's going on and type current and get the schedule's current date time, which does not require a level sequence because the level sequence is like secondary to the stuff. You can get it even if the level sequence is changing the animation, you still want to get it this way. So I'm gonna get this and I'm just gonna print it so we can see it in the corner. Whoops, sorry, it doesn't know how to print a date time by default. Let's print a string and then we're going to convert the string. You can use formatting. I would, what you can do is, so I've added this built-in format datetime function just for like debugging. If you want to like look at the date printed for you, I'm also going to print it at the delta seconds time. So that way there's only one thing on the screen at once. But a better way of doing this is format text. And then you would, so I don't actually remember how is this like, I think it's like this. Yeah, so I've added a month argument by adding that to this guy. And then what I can do is I can break this date time and I can get like the, whoops. You can get the month, which I believe is an integer with 0 being January and 11 being December. But you could like convert that using a select, for example, and be like, okay, well, option 0. If I have option 0, then I'm going to, whoops. Oh yeah, option 0 would be like, how do I do just, yeah, make literal string. Yeah, so now the rest have become strings, great. So the first one would be January, for example, and then you would put that in here. And then now you have text, and you'd have to use print text instead of print string. But this would be like how you'd custom format what the date looks like using the all the information in the moment of time that we have for the schedule manager right now, which is determined by that animation progress property that we saw. But I'm just going to ignore this format text and just print this simple debugging one that I have. We would use something like this, although I don't think I will in our case, but we could use something like this in the UI part of the tutorial. So I've got this, now I can go into main, and if I hit play now, well actually not much will happen because I'm pretty sure I disabled autoplay. Let me turn autoplay back on. If I hit play, we should now see it start animating. It's probably gonna, is it gonna be too fast? I don't think so actually. Okay, there we go. Great, so it's animating and you can see that it's printing the date in the top left of the plane editor. Yeah, so it's too long, so I'm not gonna do that further, but what I do wanna do is I wanna add a level sequence so that we can do it, play it really using the level sequence. I'm also gonna want to disable the, I'm gonna want to disable the autoplay that I enabled. Disable that. because, whoops, because I do not want autoplay to interfere with the level sequence driving the animation. Okay, so I've created this new level sequence. I'm going to drag it in so that way it can play in the editor. Sorry, it'll play in the editor with the UI, but so that way it can play when I start the game. And the other thing I'm going to do is, I've already clicked on it. Oh, I'm looking at world settings, that's why. If I go down here, what I want to do is I want to turn autoplay on for this thing, so that way it will autoplay. You have very similar settings here for looping and stuff and play rate. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to select the schedule manager, and I'm going to actually, first I'm going to double click the level sequence, or rather I guess go open the level sequence. You can also double click the asset here to edit it in the content drawer without spawning it, but I want to spawn it because we're going to play with it. I've opened it, the level sequence, we have the UI now, so now I can select my schedule manager and I'm going to add an actor track to this. So this will let me animate this actor. So I could go down here, or I could just hit add schedule manager at the top because I already have it selected. Nice and contextual. And now I want to add a property here, a property track, which in our case is going to be animation progress, that property that we have that's animatable. And it has this nice keyframe button here, which we're going to use. So we want a keyframe at frame 0 of a value of 0 because we want the progress to be 0 at that point. And then I'm going to zoom out a bit, make this a little bit longer because 120, that's 4 seconds. That's way too slow. We want, because it's 30, yeah. So we want a larger period of animation time. And I'm going to then scrub all the way to the end and set the keyframe, set the value to 1.0, which means it's done, and add another keyframe. So now when I scrub through, it's going to do the animation through the level sequence. And now we can, like, if you want to, you can like go through, I'm actually going to do it right now. Why not? I'm going to add a big cube here in the middle at 200. I'm going to add an actor track for it. And then it has a transform track already. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to make this let's first increase the scale so that it's a bit easier to see. I got this big cube here. I'm going to increase the Z value a little bit. I should probably talk to the Unreal folks because for some reason after I import, I can no longer see the little gizmo or translation widget that lets you move things. Really weird, but definitely an Unreal bug. Okay, so I'm going to select this guy. It has its giant shadow there. And then I'm going to give it an animation here in the middle. So I'm going to hit the keyframe for location and rotation. Did I? Yeah, it's under transform. So there's 2 keyframes now, and then I'm going to move it here. And now I'm going to say, let's say this guy moves all the way here during that time, and then does a little spin or something. And I'm going to hit on both of those the keyframe. And now you'll see, whoops, did I not change the location? I did not, I guess, or something. So I'm on the right frame, right? I think so. I'm going to change whoops. No, that's not what I wanted. I'm gonna animate you over here, and then I'm going to set that. So there we go. All right, now he's going to animate over there and do some spinning on the way. So the point is you can now animate things together between Unreal animations and the Synchro or whatever you're importing animation. So really cool, you can do both. So if you have like some higher quality assets that are like existing in the real world, or like a content pack with custom content, you can animate it and then just be like, oh, let me find the moment that this this excavator appears. And I'm going to add in a custom excavator. Like I'll just go in straight up and just delete this guy. As you can see, as I talked about clusters, there's actually a bunch of these. So let me select this entire hierarchy. I can just delete it. I guess I'm not going to do it because deleting takes, I'm going to hit cancel all of them. Deleting takes forever in Unreal, so I'm not going to get into that trap. But yeah, so we got this animation that just works in the editor with the level sequence. And since I did autoplay, when I hit play, it should just start working. Okay, and the cube is eventually going to go there. Yeah, so here's our autoplay. It should, yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, yeah, great. So there's our animation. We got our custom material. We've got a level sequence that's running in the editor. Awesome. So what we want to do now is add a UI for this animation sequence, or for this level sequence. So that way the user could like see on the screen during interactivity, they could see a little slider that they can then grab and change things themselves without needing to be in the editor, like so you can have a package project, etc. So let's start doing that. So I'm going to add a new, I think it's called the HUD class. Whoops, what? Game mode. Let's add a game mode first. Not you. Game mode. What? Let's look for this. Blueprints. Is it all just called blueprint class now or something? How are those gameplay things? Interesting. All right, let's just create a. Okay, maybe it's here. So we'll create a game mode base. Call it my game mode. I'm gonna create another blueprint class. I'm gonna call it my HUD, I think. And then we'll add a widget. HUD. And then we're gonna add a widget, which is gonna be our schedule controls. So, is there no longer widget here? User interface, I guess. Oh, widget blueprint. Okay, and it's gonna be a regular. Probably should be like a full thing. I don't remember this super well. We'll just do widget, and I'm gonna call it schedule widget. Great. I'm pretty sure I remember this well enough. We'll find out. This was the. Did I forget to rename this one? This is the HUD, so I'm gonna call it my HUD. Okay, so here's what we want to do. Go to my game mode. So I think it's a data only blueprint, or at least here. So we want to change the HUD class to my HUD. Great, and then we want to go to. I can close these materials now. I'll keep that open for now. So we want to close the sequencer, open the content drawer, I guess. We set the HUD to be the new game mode one. We want to go into the world settings, and we want to override the game mode to be the game mode, my game mode. So that way that's what controls the logic and sets the HUD. And then lastly, we want to go and actually start using this scheduler widget that we added. So inside the HUD, okay, so let's now add this widget. So what we want to do is we want to call create widget in the begin play event of the HUD, and we're going to grab that schedule widget. This is the best way I know to do this, honestly. But if you know a better way, let me know. And then we're going to add it to Viewport. We're going to add this created widget to the Viewport. Okay, so that should give us what we need, except what? Oh, I accidentally forgot I populated the construction script. Let's open the schedule widget. And let's add first a canvas. Or like a panel or something, I think. Well, I guess let's just add the slider. Oh, here's the big thingy. So let's add a slider. Did I just add it like way out of bounds? Yes. Okay, here's our slider. Great. And then let's add some text and a button. Oh, it's because I forgot to put a panel first. Let's see. So there's common. Where's the panel? Yeah, okay, there we go. So first things first, we want a canvas panel to place things in. Then we want to add a slider to that canvas panel. And then we want to add some random text inside this canvas panel, which is going to show the current date and the end date. So let's do start, oops, end, and then current. And then let's grab that slider and move it over. It should be, whoops, not you. You should be over here. Great, and let's just move that. So obviously you're gonna make this a lot prettier than I am. I'm not gonna try very hard. I'm just going for functionality right now. So we've got our time, and then let's also add a play button. Or toggle play. And we'll, I guess you gotta add a text to it. Isn't that how it works? I think so, yes. And then it will just say play. And we could obviously change that to like pause or something, but let's call this play button. and it is a variable. Great. All these things are variables, just what I wanted. Perfect. So we're going to go to the graph. And okay, here's our constructing of widgets. Great. What we want to do is we want to on tick, or when we construct it, we're going to find the schedule manager, and then on tick, we're going to update that schedule. Looks like nothing else was a variable. Let's fix that. We're going to on tick, we're going to update the current schedule. So I guess text blocks by default are not variables. That's the problem. So here, I'm gonna change u to a variable too, and then u to a variable, because we're gonna set all of these. So I guess the other thing that we want to do is we have the schedule manager, and we want to be able to find it. I guess we can just grab it by class, because there's only gonna be one of them. So in the graph, what we're gonna do is we're going to say on construct get all actors of class, and the class is going to be schedule manager. And then we're going to just assume there is one. So hopefully we're not going to break anything. And then we're going to set a variable, which I'm going to add, of type schedule manager. So this is just us grabbing the schedule manager that exists when this, which we're just assuming because that's how we've designed this level, to always have a schedule manager. Okay, so now what I can do is drag this guy over here and set it and say, all right, we're constructed, so let's set the schedule manager. Now that we've done that, we can immediately grab that scene data that I looked at last time and break that. Whoops, break export scene data. What are you doing, Unreal? It's some funky, I hope you're not seeing these graphical glitches. All right, there we go. So now what we can do is we can add some setting of these text nodes. So we've got our schedule start time and end time. So for start, we're going to grab it and we're going to set the text. Set text. And we're going to convert this to straight, or I'm going to do format datetime. So I believe I already explained this, but this is just a debug version. This is just debug text. It's just going to be a lot easier for me to do this right now. You would very likely want to actually format it using a real like formatting logic, using the format text node, not format datetime, and then you'd want to break the datetime and see what's inside of it, and be like, oh well, here's how I want to display my months, in what language, etc. Here's how I want to display hours. Do I want to display hours? Maybe not. Probably not. This is a very long schedule. Okay, so I've set the start text. Now I'm going to set the end text. It's going to be the exact same thing, so I'll just copy and paste this. The difference being now, I used this one, so let me copy these again, except make it end time, and then set that for you and for you. Great, so now we have all of those, and then we just want to do the exact same thing, kind of, for the current, but that one we're going to do on tick, because that one changes. So on tick, what we're going to do is we're going to get the schedule manager. Let me actually drag it out here because I find that easier right now. So this one can be rid of. Whoops, wrong. Forgot to select the right thing. Got you. Okay, so we're going to do this, except instead of setting the start one, it's going to be the current text widget. The one that's named current, which means current date. I'm going to get rid of you. I don't even know why I grabbed you. And we're going to go for current date time and connect those. Okay, so now we have the text being set. Perfect. Yeah, okay, and then the other thing we want to do is we want to add a on-click play and pause. So what I'm going to do is, I gotta go to the designer here. I want to expose the on-click method for this play button. So I'm going to go here and on-click to add an event for that. So it's going to create this one here. And I'm just going to grab the schedule manager again, and we're just going to use its Blueprint API to do stuff. So it has like a play and a pause button function, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the is playing variable, because those really just set that to whatever to playing it or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the is playing variable, and I'm just going to invert it, like set it to the opposite. What are you doing? Unreal. Okay, so we're going to get is playing. We're going to use not. So this is basically just a toggle. Just whatever it was, make it not that. Yeah, Boolean not. Perfect. All right, whatever playing was, switch it the other way. I'm sorry that I call it play, because it will also pause. Sorry for the confusion. So that is good. I'm going to compile this. Great. Okay, so we have our, I'm going to save them. We have our HUD, we have our schedule widget. Our schedule widget has some logic. I guess, one thing we haven't added, and this actually, should become much simpler than it used to be is if I go to the slider and I want to set the on value changed, it's going to give me a value between 0 and 1, I believe, which is the slider value, wherever the user has placed the slider. So the good thing is, turns out that the schedule manager animation progress is also a 0 to 1 value, so we don't have to do any linear interpolation or fancy math. So at least I believe so. So let's find out. Let's just go grab the animation, or no, we actually might have to, because let's do it this way and then we'll do it with the level sequence. So what we'll do is set animation progress, and then we'll switch it to using level sequence, because like I said, I wanted to do using level sequence. So we'll turn the level sequence off and you'll see what's going on. Okay, so if I go back to the main and then I go to, because the level sequence will control this cube as well, basically. The level sequence is just sort of a better way of doing it. Okay, so I go to my level sequence, I'm going to turn its autoplay off. So that way when I hit play, we should get this widget that we've created, and I should be able to manipulate it. Okay, here we are. So if I grab this, okay, there we go. So now in editor, we can interactively change the animation progress, and we see reflected here. We're going to want to do the same thing for the animator. And then I hit play, and now it's playing by itself. Great, and it's very difficult to see, but there is a small slider knob somewhere here. There it is. It's just in that area. There, slightly easier to see. Probably not very without high definition, HD or whatever. Obviously, my texts are not very well calibrated for this screen size, but this is just debug text, so you get the point. You might want to not show the hours, so that way it's not rapidly changing like this. Just maybe showing what month it is. Depends on your schedule. Okay, but yes, we've got our interactability. We just want to make it driven by the level sequence instead, so that way this thing also changes. Okay, so let's now add this widget. So what we want to do is we want to call create widget in the begin play event of the HUD, and we're going to grab that schedule widget. This is the best way I know to do this, honestly. But if you know a better way, let me know. And then we're going to add it to Viewport. We're going to add this created widget to the Viewport. Okay, so that should give us what we need, except what? Oh, I forgot I populated the construction script. Great. Okay, so we have our, I'm going to save them. We have our HUD, we have our schedule widget. Our schedule widget has some logic. I guess, one thing we haven't added, and this actually should become much simpler than it used to be, is if I go to the slider and I want to set the on value changed, it's going to give me a value between 0 and 1, I believe, which is the slider value, wherever the user has placed the slider. So the good thing is, turns out that the schedule manager animation progress is also a 0 to 1 value, so we don't have to do any linear interpolation or fancy math. So at least I believe so. So let's find out. Let's just go grab the animation, or no, we actually might have to, because let's do it this way and then we'll do it with the level sequence. So what we'll do is set animation progress, and then we'll switch it to using level sequence, because like I said, I wanted to do using level sequence. So we'll turn the level sequence off and you'll see what's going on. Okay, so if I go back to the main and then I go to, because the level sequence will control this cube as well, basically. The level sequence is just sort of a better way of doing it. Okay, so I go to my level sequence, I'm going to turn its autoplay off. So that way when I hit play, we should get this widget that we've created, and I should be able to manipulate it. Okay, here we are. So if I grab this, okay, there we go. So now in editor, we can interactively change the animation progress, and we see reflected here. We're going to want to do the same thing for the animator. And then I hit play, and now it's playing by itself. Great, and it's very difficult to see, but there is a small slider knob somewhere here. There it is. It's just in that area. There, slightly easier to see. Probably not very without high definition, HD or whatever. Obviously, my texts are not very well calibrated for this screen size, but this is just debug text, so you get the point. You might want to not show the hours, so that way it's not rapidly changing like this. just maybe showing what month it is. Depends on your schedule. Okay, but yes, we've got our interactability. We just want to make it driven by the level sequence instead, so that way this thing also changes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go here and we're going to change this slightly. So in addition to grabbing the schedule manager, let's also first grab a level sequence actor. That is the thing that spawned when I dragged my level sequence into, when I dragged our level sequence asset into the editor. So into the level rather. So I'm going to move out, and then I'm just going to take this out and I'm going to promote it to a variable, and I'm going to name it level sequence. I'm just going to shorten that. Why not? Attach. So we've got a level sequence actor. And what we want to do now is set our level sequence basically instead of setting this. So, oh, and in fact, we're going to want to change this to also manipulate the level sequence. So level sequence, sorry, let me grab our level sequence actor. And I'm going to just change the play or whatever. So I get is playing, and then is there a set is playing? Set is playing. Okay, great. So let's do that. And all we got to do, so it's really just the exact same thing that we had a minute ago, but we want to do, we need the not, Boolean not at the top. Great. So that way it's just gonna invert that Boolean so that if it's playing, it's not gonna be playing anymore. And if you actually have a play or pause in, I recommend you also changing it from the word play to the word pause, or just using it, or you could do it also with the symbol for play pause, whatever you want to do. So we've got our slider also needs to do something similar. So we want to grab this level sequence actor and we want to set the, or I think it's called scrubbing. So no, wait a second. I made this a schedule manager by accident. That's why this looked oddly familiar of an API. You're probably saying like, I knew you did that. Why would you do that? This is level sequence actor. It's because of the way Unreal types work. Let's get our copy and let's make this a level sequence actor. Okay, so change variable type. Ugh, indexing my blueprints. I don't really care, sorry. We're setting that, perfect. So now we can set play. Whoops. This is why. All right. So yeah, there's set play range. Is there a way to? I guess we'll just use a. We'll do a branch basically. So branch, and then if it's playing, oh, there, I don't see a way to set is playing. Whatever, we'll do the branch. So set sorry, get is playing. So, or is paused. I guess I already typed this out. We're gonna do is playing. So if it's playing, we're gonna pause it. If it's not playing, we're gonna play it. Very simple. Here we're gonna pause. Okay, yeah, there we go. So that is the level sequence way of doing the exact same thing. And then there's probably going to be a harder way of doing it also for this. So let's see, level sequence actor, we're going to want to say something like, let's do set time. Whoa. All right, so what we want to do is not set the play range, but just do set playback position. That's what I'm looking for. Great. Okay, I don't know why I grabbed you. Set playback position, and we want to make a playback param probably by using the time. I believe we can just ignore the frames there and just use, well, we'll see. So let's grab this thing and let's get the get end time, and we're going to probably linearly interpolate. Let's find out. So assuming the start time is 0, I guess let's not have this, let's make that assumption. Yeah, okay, we will not make that assumption. We need to interpolate from this, which I'm gonna probably convert to seconds. Yeah, qualified frame time to seconds. And then also qualified frame time to seconds. And then we probably want to do like seconds to qualified frame time. Yeah, I think that'll work. 0 to 1 clamped subframe. Nope, that is not going to work. Make frames. Sorry, seconds to frames. Whoa, that's not it for sure. Okay, so we have our start time and our end time, and we want to linearly interpolate this value to those. So it's literally going to be what's called a lerp, where this is the value because it's going to go between the start time to the end time, and that gives us the amount of seconds that we're at. So what we want to do then is convert this back into a frame. So something like set playback position, playback params. You can make one. Nope. Interesting. Let's just try it like this. I don't actually remember how well it works. Oh, wow. And then let's call it has jumped, I guess. Update method scrub. Position time type time. We will go with that. And I think that might work. Let's find out. Okay, so we've got our slider. Let's see if this works, because now it's going to change the level sequence. So our level sequence is not going to autoplay. You know what? Let's not make it autoplay because we can just hit the play button. Okay, so I'm going to hit the play button, and now the level sequence is going. And if I change the value, then it's also going to, yeah, see, we now actually see the cube animating as well. So yeah, everything worked. Great. The one thing that we do want to do is, if you notice, this is not updating on its own. So I'm going to stop it. I'm going to go to the schedule widget. What we need to do is make sure that we're setting the slider based on the animation itself playing. So the exact same thing that, well, not the exact same thing did, but something similar. So I'm going to copy this. On tick, we want to set the schedule, or sorry, not the playback position. We want to set the slider position. So let's grab the slider, and then let's just set the value or something. This is the slider value. So we're going to set the slider value to the level sequence, whatever, it's not the start time, but the current time. Get current time, perfect. Turn that to seconds. And then we actually probably have to do the reverse of what we did. We have to convert these seconds into a slider 0 to 1 value. So let me grab these guys. Actually, let me grab them with the lerp, I feel like. Actually, I don't think we need them. Oh, we'll see. So, sorry, I just haven't thought it through yet. Okay, so we've got the current time, and what we want to do is we want to lerp from the current time as no, because that should be from 0 to 1. We're doing the opposite of the lerp. So I need to think about this because I just didn't think about it ahead of time. So yeah, so we want to then probably just subtract the frame times from each other. Like, we'll just do the math underneath the lerp. I don't think you can use one for this. So let's just do float subtraction. So we're going to say the end minus the start. That gives us the length of time. And then we want to also subtract from the start the current time. Sorry, yeah, so this gave us the range. This is the, this gives us our depth into that range. Both of them are, no, this is the start minus, wait a second. This is the end minus the start, which gives us the range. This is the start. Yeah, we don't want that. We want this. They both should be minus the start. That's why I was a little bit confused for a second there. They both should be minus the start, and then we should just divide them by each other to give us the proportion. So this gives us basically the proportion we are through that range by seeing how far we are through the current range, and then the full length of the range, and then that gives us our value. Okay, so That, I believe, by the way, is the inverse of the lerp. So now when I hit play, we should have the same thing. I probably also should have made the text smaller, but I'm not trying to make this look good. So I'm gonna hit play again, it goes to the beginning. Okay, wow, the level sequence is really fast. It is maybe hard for you to see. I'm moving my mouse with it, but yeah, it is speeding away, and I can grab it and like go back or whatever, and everything animates together. So great, it works. So now let's try to render this to a movie render queue. So basically, I've got this level sequence set up here, and I've got my schedule working. I actually removed the cube, but everything else is the same. So what I'm going to do now is, really we want to basically get to rendering this, but there's a couple things we have to do first. So let's fix a mistake I made with the UI, which is I'm going to grab all these things and I'm going to I'm going to anchor them basically. I'm going to anchor all these objects so that way it can scale up to whatever resolution we're using on that movie render queue. This is really just like UI 101. Sorry, UI 101 in Unreal Engine. So just gonna make sure that all of these have appropriate anchors so that it doesn't look terrible on the screen. Okay, so I think that was it. Great. Okay, so now that that's done, we can go to this and we can hit our render movie button, and we're going to be given a config that we're going to be given an unsaved config. I sort of had one before, but we're going to save this one, so we're going to open it up and I'm going to immediately save it as a preset. You can call it whatever you want, say wherever. And what I want to do is I want to add a setting for using the UI that I made. So obviously if you don't want that, you don't want that, but I do. So I'm going to have the UI that I created. I assume maybe you're going to add some, you can render fancy UI saying what time it is with whatever font you want, basically a much better version of the more functional UI that I created. And then it will render now with everything else, and it will use the live current date, etc. So it's just going to make it easier to animate everything inside Unreal. And then lastly, so in my case, I'm going to jump every 20 frames because I want to be able to render this all very quickly. I think it does render quickly, but whatever, this will make it even easier. Less stuff to look at. You probably don't want to do that. You can change whatever settings else you need here. You can add different kinds of outputs, like an audio file or etc., or maybe even a full MP4, etc. So do what you need there. I don't need any of these render other options. You can just you can watch a tutorial for some of the other more in-depth stuff. We're just going to keep it basic. So I'm going to accept that, and then did I save that? Let me just hit save preset. I've still got the UI renderer, great. If there is burn-in, I would turn it off. I don't think we have burn-in. Oh, there's one more thing I forgot. There will not be a UI because right now our UI is specific to our game mode. So I think this has some consequences, but I've been able to use it okay. I'm just going to add a game override. I'm going to change from the default movie pipeline game mode to our custom game mode. Probably I would want to change this or re-parent that blueprint class my game mode. In this case, I don't think it'll make a difference, so I'm not going to do it. But I might want to reparent this class to the movie pipeline game mode, so that way it has the same logic except for the override of the UI or of the HUD. Okay, but this is good enough for us. So I'm going to save this again, and then I'm going to go add a camera because, that helps us control things a little bit. This is fine. You could probably save this too, but I'm not going to do that. Yeah, so what I want to do is just add a simple camera and just fly it around. Or by fly it around, I mean choose where to put it. So we're going to put it here, or maybe we'll put it in front or something. I actually like it better from here. So we're going to place the camera, and then I'm going to eject from that camera. Cool. So now we have a camera that we can look at here. And you could have multiple camera cuts. Actually, I'm not going to go into that stuff. I'm not an expert on it anyway. But you can do whatever you need to have multiple cameras. You can animate the cameras here. So for example, you can change this stuff, but I believe you can also change the transform of the camera, right? So you can have the camera move like towards the end if you want, by just using the same keyframe mechanism that we were using. So here's my camera. I believe, yeah, there's the camera, the tiny little thing. And then I could add a keyframe at the beginning for that location. And then maybe I can, oh man, I don't even remember how to view as that camera. Maybe I'm going to hit No, I don't want to create the new camera. Is this it? Yeah, okay. I think, oh no. Well, whatever. I'm sure that there's a way to like fly it around. That's definitely in here that I just don't remember. Oh, there it is. Okay, fast enough. So we just did that. So let's move to another, whoops. I want to stay in this frame. I want to move over, or wait, actually, I also want to make sure that I've keyframed my rotation. And then finally, we can just add like a little fancy rotating thingy here where it's going to go like this. And I don't think that's actually good because you probably want another one in the middle to make it look more circular of a motion. But I'm going to go ahead and keyframe those. Whoa. That. Okay, I didn't keyframe the rotation, or it switched the rotation as soon as I did. So let's change that rotation. Hello. So maybe I should have keyframed the rotation first. I don't know if that would have worked. Okay, so there we go. All right, so like I said, you probably want a middle keyframe so that way it actually bends back here, but I'm not going to do that because I'm lazy. Okay, so we've got our camera animation. We've got that stuff. You can animate whatever else you want in the level sequence as mentioned and with the cube that we did earlier. So finally we can render it with the stuff that we did. So I'm going to hit that render button. I've got those settings already. I think I might want to, like they aren't saved, so I'll just do that. Yeah, because it had the little asterisk. And now I'm going to hit render local. And it's going to take a while to warm up, and obviously it'll also depend on your scene. But yeah, I'm going to get some 1920 by 1080 footage out of this. It looks like there might be a bunch of motion blur. So maybe I'll have to change all of that. But we can just take a look at it's going to appear inside of wherever you told it to appear, which in my case is the default saved movie renders. So let's see just how bad that looks. Yeah, okay, really blurry, but we got our UI and it is animating, so it's telling us the time that we're at. So then, yeah, we would just want to maybe fix that. In my case, I'm probably just going to go ahead and actually remove that animation. So I'm going to click on this keyframe and delete it and see what it looks like now. Whoops, oh, I deleted the wrong frame. Okay, let's delete this one. And now we have the animation and we don't have any movement. So I can do that one more time. Obviously, you know, tame your own motion blur settings for that. I don't remember where they are, so I'm just not doing that immediately right now. But this should warm up and then give us actual, yeah, normal looking stuff. So here, if I go back into the saved movie renders, we'll have a non-motion blurry scene here and we can look at all the frames that we've got. And so obviously, you know, the UI is animating just like we want, and you could do whatever you want with your own camera and your own scene settings and everything and materials, and pretty much gives you the power to do whatever you want with this stuff. So yeah, really excited it's this easy now to use and animate it with other things at the same time. So yeah, looking forward to getting into people's hands. All right, thank you, and good luck out there.